Welcome to The Tea with Martha, where we spill the tea on the untold truths and real struggles of entrepreneurship. I'm Martha Pachow, a fellow business owner who's learned the ins and outs of business the hard way. Get ready for unfiltered discussions on the highs, lows, and messy realities of entrepreneurship. It's time to spill the tea and vent it out with us. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Tea with Martha. I'm your host, Martha Pachow, and I'm excited today to dive into a little bit of that background story of how I went from working over 70 hours a week to now I get to just visit my centers quarterly, and work around, 15-ish hours, 20 hours a week in that business. So it is kind of one of those surreal moments when I think about how that happened, because I was in such overwhelm at the time. So a little bit of me, if you haven't heard any other of my episodes, or if this is your first time here, I have a chain of childcare centers in the Phoenix area named Whiz Kids Preschools, which started out of my home when I had my oldest son 17 years ago. So almost 18, actually. He'll be 18 at the end of this year. But it is one of those amazing journeys to be able to now tell the story. I was teaching first grade at the time and then decided to stay home with him and be mom, but also I wanted to be a teacher and also help provide for my family. And so I was able to start a home preschool morning program. And I did that for many, many years. I had my second son and I did it consistently for 5 years. 5 years. So I would wake up early, get myself ready, prep the food for the day, because I gave not only a full preschool program, but I offered meals. And so early on, it was just me. And so I needed to know how to manage my time and be able to do all the things I needed to do. So did that for many years. I had help. My mom would come. My mom at the time did not live here in Phoenix. And so, if I needed a break, or when I had my son, or when, I took a vacation or things like that, we kept going most of the time. I think I just closed a few, holidays, typical holidays, and then a week or two a year. But if I had something else going on, she would help me and kind of hold down the fort. Then I was able to get a helper. Then I got 2 helpers. And so it just, the iterations of all that through the years is pretty crazy. And then I had to basically short sell my house and was going through divorce. And so I shut everything down. And I was basically flipping appliances for the longest time. Probably about a year and a half, I flipped appliances. So 12, almost 13 years ago is when I got my first center. So my husband, now, at the time we were dating, we went, all in. We decided that there was an opportunity that was offered to me and that we would go for it. And so he really was just that support. And because, one was moral support, because I would second guess myself, like, can I do it? Should I do this? But then I thought, this is like a dream. This is a dream for me to be able to have a school and not have a home, like a home program. And at the time I lived in an apartment. And so, I had literally just kind of had let go of that dream of ever having a school, because my life had just taken a turn. So we decided to do it. It was November of 2012, and we were in over our heads. So the school was definitely underperforming, mismanaged. And the owner, he, now I think I'm really grateful for him, because he really was the one who gave me the opportunity, believed in me, as much as it sometimes I think, well, he just really kind of, maybe wasn't exactly transparent or honest. But he had offered this location to me a few years before I actually took it over. And the deal didn't happen. He wanted a lot more money, and I didn't, I wasn't in the position to do that. And so fast forward, when he reached out to me, I remember telling him, like, this is not a good time. I barely have two pennies to rub together in my life. I'm trying to just figure it out. And so we met, and he said, I just remember you from when we met, and I think you could do great, and I just really want my rent. Take this, pay me what you can now, and then pay me as you go. And even what he wanted was a lot, because again, when you go from having consistent work to flipping appliances and being a single mom, that was a kind of a big step, but it worked. I mean, again, that's when my husband stepped in and said, "Hey, well, if you want to do this together, let's do it." And so we made the deal happen, but it was a lot. I mean, he didn't disclose that there was no organization. Everything was literally written on paper and pen in a spiral bound binder. Okay? And there was just no rhyme and reason. There was no materials. The employees did whatever they wanted. It was just not a good program. I mean, I remember thinking, okay, I'm just going to go in for a few weeks. I'm not going to ruffle feathers and start changing things. I'm just going to observe and, get acquainted. That lasted like a day or two, because they would play radio music, like rap music, in the classroom. And so that became the first step towards really grabbing the bull by its horns and figuring it out. So I knew how to run a classroom. I knew classroom management. I knew curriculum. I knew all of that. I knew how to deal with parents. But what I didn't know was the business aspect, because all of a sudden I was hit with payroll taxes, and then I get calls from insurance agent asking about workers' comp. I said, "What? Workers' comp? What?" So there was a lot of learning that had to be, that there was to be had. And so it happened. And in hindsight, I probably would have not done it had I known it was going to be so many layers and so complex. But once you're in it, you really have no choice other than to, are you going to give up, or are you going to keep going? So here we are, 12 years later, we kept going. But I wanted to share with you that nowadays, the ability to learn from other people and learn from people who have already done the thing that you're wanting to do, and accelerate that delta between where you're at and where you want to go. And so that's the purpose of me coming on and sharing not only my story, but some of the things to keep an eye on, and also just to tell you that it can be done. It's not perfect, and there's no perfect, and maybe it's not the thing you want, but I know I wanted to grow, and I wanted to expand and be able to continue the thing that we had created, and just replicate it. And so for many, many years, I went to, conferences, coaching. I had mentors. I would read books. I would open to close. So a lot of that, or the first maybe 6 years, yeah, I was working most often open to close, very close to that. And then again on the weekends. So because I didn't have time to do the back office things during the day, because I was dealing with customer service or employee management, things like that. So, how did I go from the 70 hours to now? I'm still very involved, but my days just look different, and I choose to focus on different things. That now I am able to do things like this and do other projects and focus on another business. And it's beautiful, because it's okay to evolve, and it's okay to also allow other people to step in and give them opportunities. And so I just want to say, like, it really is worth it to stay in it, to do the hard work, because if you do and you figure out your groove, that's where it's at. So some of the things, when you're looking at So how do I do it, Martha? Right? You want to know. I would say step one is you want to assess and you want to understand your current operations. Okay. It's kind of like take an inventory, review your operations, review the daily tasks that you do. Are there processes? What are the things that you do? What are the things that other people do? Identify activities that consume most of your time. I think for me, that's a critical thing. We sometimes don't realize how much time we're spending on a specific task or a specific responsibility. So look at that, audit your time, audit your processes, and think what's working and what's not. You also want to identify critical areas. So, what tasks are essential and which can be delegated? So, what are your KPIs? What is a key performance indicator to monitor your business health? More often than not, it's going to be, sales. It's going to be monitoring the books. It's going to be managing expenses, things like that. But again, what are those critical areas for you? For us in childcare, payroll is a big one. And so looking at time. Another thing you can look at is operating expenses. It's the grocery bills, it's the supplies, it's electricity. Do we need to set up systems? As we grew, I couldn't monitor. Did it make sense for me to? I couldn't walk around each classroom. So where before, if I was closing the school, I would walk around each classroom, make sure that the ACs were at the temperature for overnight or over the weekend, turn off lights, lock all the doors, right? It was very manual labor, hands on. As I opened more centers, well, there's only one of me in multiple centers. So then we had to systemize that, making sure that systems were in place so that we can control them, things like that. Step two, streamline, document. I know that is, everyone says that, but one of the biggest things is as we opened center 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, it was a lot. We were growing really, really fast, and I had a lot of processes. And then I had a few key people that had grown with me that then they had all the processes and they had all the tasks. And it was really hard. And it's taken us a lot of iterations of standardizing our procedures. I hired uh, I hired consultants to come in a few times to help us. And so we started a document, and then we saw we needed to edit, and then I hired someone else, and then we did something else, and then that didn't go great. It wasn't monitored and managed properly. And it took another person in house to fix that. And so documenting processes and streamline processes is not easy, and it's not a one and done, but I can tell you it's a work in progress. You'll always be adding things like that, but it's worth it. And then, of course, when that happens, the obvious step three, build a reliable team. I think recruiting skill that offsets your weak areas is amazing. Ensure that the right people are in the right seats. So we did that, over the years, and often we would hire for something, or we thought we needed someone, and it would change, and that was okay. So you start learning what are the things that what are tools that we can use to identify the people that we need. So we've used different assessment tools for our hiring process, and then the delegating responsibilities. So if I know there's a detailed type of task, if it's billing, if it's uh, compliance and paperwork, I'm going to look for a detail oriented person when it comes to those personality assessment tests, right? I'm not going to get somebody like me who's a visionary and big person, and I'm all about the big picture and let's just get it done. How we get there, irrelevant to me, but I want to know that the person that I'm going to delegate that to has has a natural inclination for that and a gift to get it done. And sometimes you don't know that until you get going, right? But so there's the skill, there's the aptitude, and kind of the character behind that. And that's why it's important that step two, you've documented processes, and at least it's a starting point, because you might hire someone and they might give feedback, because this is what would often happen as well. Oh, I didn't know this. And we in our mind thought that we had trained or that we had put it, but it wasn't clear, or it wasn't clear enough to the people being brought in. And so then it was a process of, okay, let's upgrade. Hey, this is the feedback we're getting. But at least there was a starting point so that we could hire and train and onboard people based on, the documentation of our processes. I think another big thing too is the training and ongoing development. And so when you look at, yes, you hire people, sometimes they're going to have skills, sometimes they're not, but you can develop them. And that really promotes a culture of learning and improvement and growth. And I like it for me. And I guess I operate my company the way I do. I like coaching. I like training. I have always done that. I mean, I can't even from when I was in my home center, I would go to night classes sometimes at the community college, just learning. And I already had a bachelor's degree in education, but I wanted to learn, new strategies, behavior strategies, classroom management, early ed things. And so it's that continuous development, that continuous improvement, and lifelong learning is going to be the key. And when you promote that culture within your organization, it is such a game changer when you model, but also expect, like, hey, this is a company standard. We're going to continue to find ways to improve. It's huge, because none of us are perfect, right? But we are striving for progress. Step 4 would be establish clear communication. Again, for me, this was a hard thing because I move really fast and I assume people understand me and I assume people know what's happening. But having a standing meeting, so whether it's, depending on how many layers you have, it might be a weekly meeting or a bi-weekly meeting or a monthly meeting with your team, and use these meetings to review any progress that's been made, address issues, give some guidance, and have a space where people can communicate other than, of course, the regular email or, Zoom or Slack or GroupMe, whatever apps are out there. That is also a good way to stay connected in between, but understanding, hey, we have this standing meeting. So now what happens within our organization is I have a standing meeting once a week with the operations director, just her and I have a L10 meeting, which I'll get into right now, but an L10 meeting with my leadership team once a week. Then they each have meetings with the people they supervise. So there is a standing director meeting. So the leadership team has a standing director meeting weekly, and then once a month they meet in person. And the same thing goes with or I think it's biweekly, they meet with their assistant directors, so that all the lines of communication are open and everyone is understanding what we're working on and what's happening. And there's a lot of also support between them. So it serves as a tool of avoiding maybe things brewing or misunderstandings, although they still happen, right? But communication is obviously key. Step 5, implement a reporting system or monitoring system. So for us, we have our financials, which is, we have a bookkeeper, and then we have monthly reporting. So I meet with my bookkeeper once a month. We go over the reports, but I'm also looking at them. I now have a fractional CFO, so we meet bi-weekly and we look at those things as well. And we look at them more often just so we can project, we can measure what's happening and take a pulse on the current state, current state of the union. So we want to make sure that we don't wait, 4 weeks or 3 weeks post the month to get a report. We can look and analyze what's happening in real time and then make adjustments accordingly. So it really, really helps. So any type of reporting, we also use ProCare. So ProCare is the software that we use, and that manages all our in-house back office. It's enrollments and employee data and check-in stations, both for kids and employees. So it's a whole dashboard that you can take a look, and that's what the administrators at the schools are looking at in real time. Who's checked in, what teachers are assigned to what class and what children, and who's being checked out in the afternoons, things like that. So it's a really good tool. So we use those three things, right? We have our QuickBooks, with all our financial team, which is a CFO, a CPA. We have our operations, which is going to be the ProCare. It's really interesting when you start learning how to look at data and look at all the information. You can tell a story. Numbers tell a story. So monitoring and keeping up on that is key to success and being able to scale. And or maybe it's not scale, maybe you just want balance in your life. So really measuring, you got to measure what you manage. So measure what you are responsible for. And then I think that you can continue down that path when you look at step 6, planning that transition strategy. How do you go from overwhelm? How do you go from creating systems and documenting and hiring and creating manuals and onboarding and training and measuring and sales and all the things that have to happen within a childcare center? You have kitchen, if you do. I mean, some people do, some people don't, but I get it. That is the most, I think, underestimated industry, knowing that we have licensed kitchens. So you got to manage food costs, you got to manage menus and reporting, allergies, and all of that jazz, on top of the education piece, on top of the fiscal piece, on top of the HR things, on top of it, if it's real estate or, maintenance. And is it your real estate? Are you a lender, not a lender? Are you a tenant? What are your obligations? And then taxes, tax strategies. I mean, there is so many things that we juggle. And so really planning, hey, I'm going to have the next year or two, this is my strategy. I want to make sure I'm going maybe through these iterations, right? Step 1 is documenting, and maybe it's hiring somebody to help you and extract all that information. That's what it did for me, and it was really helpful. And then a few years into it, we needed to kind of upgrade our system, and that's when we went to Trainual, and then I hired somebody else to help, and that was a little rocky. But there's tools, and there's a lot of people out there that is often worth our time and investment to delegate that so that it gets done. I think I wouldn't have completed it, or my team, because I certainly didn't do it by myself. I just want to say that I did not do it by myself. At this point, I had a whole team in place, although they were not exactly assigned to me and just working with me. They had other duties within the school, but we would collaborate on tasks. And so when that happened, that's when a few years ago, I decided to bring in an in-house business coach. And I wanted to, within my EO group, everyone talked about EOS, and everyone talked about getting an implementer and how EOS had changed their business and how amazing it was. And so I kind of was at that stage where I had done a lot of the groundwork already, but I was hitting a glass ceiling. And so I needed to do a change. And so that's when I integrated with an EOS coach, and we brought her in house, and it was really amazing to see how far we came. And we went through some rocky patches within our organization of some fallouts with some people and things like that. And she was the glue that kind of kept us all together during the really hard times, but also the thing that kept us moving forward. And as I reflect, I think having her as our business coach really, really helped that rapid growth through the years, because we were all working towards one goal collectively. We all meaning our leadership team, we would collaborate, we would bring issues, and there's a whole flow of meetings and a whole strategy behind, our quarterly days and what we would do, and then our yearly planning, and a lot of things that had been accomplished were thanks to our leadership team coming together and working with this coach. And so again, really planning that out, to think about your long-term strategy, where you want to go and where are you headed. And I would say for the last step, really just evaluate and adapt. It is not easy. Nothing is easy. And it's pivoting when needed, evaluating, reviewing, and adjusting. And it's a continuous assessment. It's a continuous development. I mean, it really is, to be prepared to make changes based on your performance, or based on feedback, or based on issues arising, or based on external advice. Consider it an honor when you have a coach or a consultant who can provide you some insights and guidance objectively, because they're not in your seat, they're not in your life, they're not in the mud with you, but they are hopefully, and I think most people that I know are rooting for you, but they just have a different angle and a different view. So joining business networks, peer groups, support groups, mentorship, I mean, that in itself for me has been the biggest game changer. I would gather things from here, there. I would process it and apply it to what I needed, or how I needed it, or my business that was maybe different from other people. And gradually you start reducing your work hours as you set all this foundation in place. You reduce your work hours because you create a system of accountability, and everybody knowing what we're all working towards and working on, and a timeline. And so there's measurement, there's a timeline, there's actionable steps, and it's really is what helps us grow personally in our careers, individually, but also collectively as a team, and then of course as a company. So I hope that this has encouraged you when you look at how can you go from overwhelm. Are you working, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week? I mean, I know that sounds like a lot, but it is a valid thing. In childcare, it's not uncommon to work many, many hours. And I just want to tell you that I am, if I can do it, anyone can. I remember one of the first AELL events that I went to, I had just opened my second school, or I think we were about to open the second school. And I remember meeting a lady who was opening, I think, her third or fourth school, and just being mind blown. I couldn't wrap my head around how you could do it. It just seemed foreign. It felt impossible. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what a punk. Like, she's just showing off. But it is possible. It really, really is. And I think it just starts, number one, everything starts with us. We create our problems, but we also have our own solutions. So if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling overwhelmed, it's all about getting that help, that support, finding the strategy that works. And there is a rhyme and reason. There's a way to get it done and still have an amazing impact in your community, and still provide opportunities within your team, and still provide amazing foundational learning for young kids, which to me, that was always my passion. It still is. And that's what fuels me on the hard days. By the way, there's still hard days. I just want to put that out there. I still, now, even though I'm not there open to close day to day in the operations, I work daily, at least a handful of hours. But now I'm just focusing on the things that I need to do. There's seasons that I work a lot more than others, so it's not always foolproof and perfect, but definitely knowing that now my place is making sure the sustainability is there, our company is viable, what are the key metrics that I need to focus on and need to keep us all on track, and then bring my team on board to understand and then work together, because this is not a one-man show, no, by no means. I am nothing without the amazing team that I have. I don't say that lightly. I don't say that just to, to sound cool. It is the absolute truth. I have just been super blessed with amazing women. They're on my team. And, that's the other thing. We are women ran, women operated. We have a few men in the organization. There's a few teachers. Of course, my husband's in the background. Now he helps just kind of oversee certain departments, but not even a lot. He also has been able to step away significantly, where he used to do a lot behind the scenes. Now he's able to focus on his business. And so it's really helped us all evolve, but it's all because we found amazing people. And it was hard. There was a lot of trial and error. But I think as you focus on the things that matter, the things you really want, and your non-negotiables, what are the non-negotiables in your organization that you must have? And until you find them, that's where you stay. Like, you're not going to deviate from that. And yeah, it can be done, guys. It can be done. So, hope this was helpful. Please sign up for my webinar if you are wanting to go from overwhelm to harmony. If you are wanting to scale your childcare business, it is definitely something that can be done. But if you're in the thick of it and you're feeling like it, like that, like I felt back in the day when this lady told me she was opening another center, I thought, how in the world? Yeah, I know how that feels. Like, I believe me, I know. But it can be done, and there's a lot of us out there that are here to support. But I can tell you the difference between coaches is, have they done it before, and are they willing to help, and do they want to see you win, right? So always keep that in mind. But if you're looking for a little bit extra, a little bit more hands-on support, I'm your girl, happy to help. Feel free to send a message and sign up for the free webinar. See you on the next one. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode. If you're struggling to find your flow in juggling all the things that go into building and scaling your dreams, while also being present for your family and finding time to take care of you, I want to invite you to join my free 21-day challenge, Tame the Chaos. You'll get my tried and true time management workbook designed to help you become a master at organizing and prioritizing how you spend your time. Plus, I'm going to walk you through a daily exercise that will transform chaos into clarity and keep you on track to creating momentum towards your goals. I personally use this method myself, and it is a vital key to my success over the years. Please visit marthapachow.com/tame-the-chaos to register for the challenge now and get instant access to the workbook. And if you've enjoyed today's tea, make sure to follow, rate, and leave a review. Stay connected with us on social media at The Tea with Martha for updates and behind-the-scenes moments. Remember, every woman's story is a sip of inspiration, and together we're brewing success. This is Martha signing off. Cheers.